Hello. I thought this time I'd film outside. I'm actually re-filming this video because the quality was so bad in the last one. Thank you so much for the comments you left about my friend. It really meant so much to me. I don't know. I'm putting myself in your shoes and thinking that you probably don't really know how much of an effect that can have, but reading all those comments was so lovely and I really appreciate it. So some people I could tell had really put a lot of thought into what they were saying as well, and it was really touching, so thank you. First, I want to look at a recording between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, and they were both aware they were being recorded. They did it because they were having marriage counselling at the time. So first, I want to look at that conversation and what they're saying happened, you know, what Johnny Depp is saying, what Amber Heard does and doesn't agree to, and then later I want to look at Amber Heard in court and how she describes the same event that she was earlier discussing with Johnny Depp. So at the start he says what he did and she doesn't deny it, and she also doesn't sound intimidated by him, so it doesn't sound like she isn't disagreeing because she doesn't want to make him angry.
Probably just a shitty lock. Anyway, I opened the bathroom door when you were knocking on it.
I opened the door when you were knocking on it, he says, and she doesn't deny it. So in other words, he opened the door because she wanted access to him. She wanted to be nearer to him. And so he agreed to open the door after she had been knocking. This becomes really important.
After a few times I opened.
After a few times I opened, he said. So she had been knocking for a few times before he opened the door. It sounds like initially he was hesitant to open the door to Amber Heard. Like he had decided to get away from her and hadn't wanted that door to be opened, you know, that he had been somehow escaping her.
And you know, you just kept going. You just kept going.
He says you kept going. So presumably she kept having a go at him, and so he didn't want to be around her. In the conversations I looked at before between them, they were talking about how when she became angry with him, he would want to escape, and how that made her more angry. He said that she will be throwing things at him or hitting him, and he doesn't want to be around. He doesn't want to experience that.
I'm not gonna be in a physical fucking altercation with you.
Then don't.
You fucking hit me last night. You fucking...
What about all the other times you split?
It's not true. I'm not the one who fucking throws fucking pots and
Those are different.
whatever
That's
the
different.
fucking else at me.
That's different. That's one does not negate the other. That's irrelevant. It's a complete non sequitur. Just because I've thrown pots and pans does not mean that you come and knock on the door. Just because there are vases does not mean that you come and knock on the door.
Really, I should just let you throw...
I'm not saying that. You're saying that. You're putting words in my mouth and then making non sequiturs.
I'm giving you a situation.
Don't
Because
get
that
why
is a
one
fucking
informs the other.
irrational and violent fucking maneuver.
How
So
does
a
one
man would
inform
want
the
to
other?
get out of that area so that he doesn't get so fucking angry that he actually does pop the fucking wife.
And also he doesn't want to lose control of himself around her. That's something else that he said. So and she said that it made her more angry that he didn't stick around at those times.
I tried to close the door 3 times.
I tried to close the door 3 times. So he was trying to protect himself. That's the impression that we're left with. You know, he tried to close the door 3 times, but she wouldn't let him. He was trying to get away from Amber.
You know, please, just don't, you know, and then, wait, and then I accidentally, I swear, when I was trying to close the door, I guess it scraped your toes. And I didn't mean to do that. And I bent down, and you either pushed or you kicked. I think you kicked the door. open.
You kicked the door open. So she kicked the door in order to open it to get access to Johnny Depp again. Again, it becomes important why I'm saying this, because she's going to say the opposite. But she kicked the door open, he says.
I mean, so the door, yeah, more open, so that it would hit me. And it hit me.
I didn't mean to.
So she hasn't denied this. She doesn't say, no, I didn't. What are you talking about? I kicked the door shut to try to get away from you. She doesn't ever say anything like that.
I didn't know
It
that.
hit me in the fucking head.
But I did not mean to do that. I don't know what you're talking
I was bent down behind the door.
I did not do anything to her. I did not kick a door or push a door so that it would hit you. I did not. I swear that it was not my intention. I think I remember when the door scraped my toes, I reacted, but this whole the door thing, I remember. I never did that. That wasn't on purpose. I might have done it on accident.
Okay.
But
So let's say that was an accident.
She says when the door scraped her toes, she reacted. So her automatic reaction was rage. You know, rage took over her and she kicked the door open. If your rage comes out as an automatic reaction, that doesn't excuse the way you behave. It suggests that you need help. It suggests that you're out of control. And Amber Heard is using this as a kind of an excuse. You know, she's saying, well, my intention wasn't to hurt you. It was just an automatic response. But why was rage and physical aggression such an automatic response? It tells us quite a lot about Amber Heard and about her inability to control her own anger. And, you know, she became so angry even though this was apparently a mistake. She doesn't say to Johnny Depp, no, you purposely scraped the door over my toes. You don't ever hear her saying that. He said he tried 3 times to close the door, so presumably this didn't happen the first time he tried to close the door. It happened the last time, because at that point she reacted by kicking the door open. If he had been allowed to close the door and keep himself away from her, her feet wouldn't have been scraped by the door. But this made her so angry, as if he had done something to hurt her, you know, as if he had been trying to hurt her. She reacted as if that had been his intention and took her rage out, you know, on him and the door. She wasn't going to accept this boundary. She wasn't having it. She was going to have access to him.
I then stood up. I don't even know if I said, I mean, I might have said, like, what the fuck, you know, whatever, because I'd just been hit in the head with the fucking corner of a door.
I'm so sorry. I did not. I'm sorry.
And then I stood up, and then you fucking clocked me.
I remember hitting you as a response to the door thing. And I'm really sorry about hitting you with the door or hitting your head. I did not mean to, nor...
You didn't mean to hit me in the head with the door, but you meant to punch me in the jaw.
I meant to hit you, and I did not do this thing with the door. I do remember, I did mean to hit you.
So that you didn't mean?
The door? No, God, no, I didn't.
But punching me in the jaw.
I didn't. Okay, I'm sorry I hit you. I did mean to hit you, but it was in response. I just reacted in response to my foot. I just reacted, and I'm sorry. It's below me.
Your foot? That was why you punched me?
Yeah.
And then after she gained access to him, after he'd been hit in the head with the door, she punched him in the jaw. And she said, I did mean to do that. And that was in response to the door thing. She felt so angry that the door had brushed over her toes in what seems to be a very irrational way. You know, it was a very irrational kind of anger, because he was just trying to stay away from her, and she really had brought that on herself by not letting him close the door. And then when she felt that anger, she punched him in the jaw. after having already kicked the door open. You know, she still had too much rage to contain, and she needed to carry on punishing him. The conversation we've just heard is played to Amber in court. If you look at her face, the way that she's chewing, she's eating something, she just looks very relaxed. She doesn't look like she feels guilty, you know, like she feels ashamed of herself. She just looks like she's, you know, just casually listening to something as if it's somebody else. She rolls her eyes. There's contempt in her expression. Not everyone experiences duper's delight. The people who do are the people who are really manipulative and get a kick out of controlling people by deceiving them.
So on the tape, you tell Johnny Depp that you did mean to hit him.
Objection. That's argumentative, and it misstates what the recording was.
And it also misrepresents what actually happened, which is him trying to get into a room I'm trying to keep him out of.
So she was trying to protect herself from him, but he was forcing his way into her space. She didn't kick the door closed. Johnny Depp said, "You kicked the door open." And she didn't argue with that. Either she's lying, or she was so intimidated by Johnny Depp before that throughout that discussion, she was just pretending that his version of events was true and not wanting to speak out. But I don't get the sense that that was what was happening. She doesn't sound like she was intimidated by him at all. And it doesn't sound like she's being forced to say anything. You know, there's no pressure from Johnny Depp to make her say what she says.
And then he runs the door over my toes, trying to get into the room. I try to push him out of it, which is what the hit is referred to. And Johnny, whenever he was injured or touched, it always referred to it in these ways of punching or clocked or whatever. And whether you discussed it with him or not, the last thing you do in talking to him afterwards or trying to reconcile with him is to get into what the definition of those words mean to him.
Now she undermines the language he uses and belittles him.
Just say what
So
happened.
I never even addressed it. He would, if he was ever pushed, it was a cold. He called it a cold clock. I mean, it was just very dramatic.
She says he's over dramatic, so he's making too much of a big deal over this physical abuse. So he shouldn't be taken seriously. That's the message she's trying to send. So here's what I've understood from the audio and the footage. First of all, Amber Heard was really angry with Johnny Depp. And Johnny Depp left the room. He went into another room and he shut the door and presumably locked it. I think this was the bathroom. And then Amber Heard knocked several times on the door, and eventually Johnny Depp let her in. But once she was in, she continued to behave in the same way. And so he wanted to escape again. So he tried 3 times to shut the door, and then one time accidentally the door brushed over her toes. So Amber Heard got even more angry. She kicked the door into his head, and then once she was with him, she punched him in the jaw. And when she reflects on what happened, she doesn't show any remorse. She doesn't look like she feels any concern for Johnny Depp. She switches the roles, so she makes herself into a victim, and the true victim of that situation becomes the perpetrator. And then she encourages us to feel contempt for the true victim, for Johnny Depp. She encourages us not to take him seriously, and she continues to smear his name. All of these actions she's taken from start to finish are the actions of an abusive character. And they also fit with traits of borderline personality disorder. This huge sensitivity to any kind of perceived rejection and the angry, out of control outbursts. Someone with borderline personality disorder will believe that they're being rejected when they're not, and they will feel a lot of pain over that, and they'll get triggered by it, and it can make them really angry. Sometimes that anger can be towards themselves. They can be, they can abuse themselves. They can self-harm. But for others, it will be directed outwardly. They'll be abusive and they can be violent. I think she's fully aware that she's lying, because if she wasn't aware, then she would have been arguing with Johnny Depp in the audio conversation that we heard. She would have been saying, no, that's not what happened. So I think what she's doing here is she's abusing him, and then she's pointing to his reaction, and she's trying to get everybody else to look at the way he's reacting and to see that as unreasonable. And that's something that people with narcissistic personality disorder can do. Although they know that they have just done something to cause that reaction, they will intentionally take that reaction and tell the person that they're behaving in a crazy way. They'll talk about them to other people, so they'll smear them, and that's exactly what Amber Heard appears to be doing. It also seems that that's what she did with the footage I showed in the last video. She took something out of context and she didn't explain the context to anybody. So she didn't want people to know about the context. And I don't know exactly what it is. People have said that at that time he was really angry because his mother had just died, and some people have said that he was really angry because his management had just run off with hundreds of millions of dollars of his money. So I'm not sure exactly which one it was, or if it was both of them, but either way there's context that's missing, and Amber Heard appears to be setting him up. She appears to be really pointing the finger at his behaviour without explaining anything else, without showing us what happened before that scene was shot. I mean, I'm saying it like it was a film, but it does. I guess it does feel a bit like it was, because we don't know what happened before that. We don't know why he was so angry. We don't know what she was apologising for. And we don't see the bit at the end. We don't see her smirking like the court saw. We don't see how self-satisfied she is having shot that footage. And those are the vital bits to the puzzle that would give us a completely different way of seeing the whole thing. So she appears to me to be someone who's extremely manipulative and is intentionally trying to create stories around Johnny Depp that are going to make people lose respect for him. She's talked about the door going over her toes, but she hasn't explained that happened because she wouldn't let Johnny Depp close the door, that was an accident because she kept getting in the way of the door. So again, she's pointing to something, to try to put Johnny Depp in a bad light. She's pointing to an end result after she has behaved abusively, and she's saying, look at the abuse I've endured. Even when Johnny Depp was the one who was abused, he was the one that was hit by the door, he was the one that was punched in the jaw, and yet she's created this whole story that turns her into a victim. She's so preoccupied with the idea that she's been rejected that she needs to take all of this rage out on Johnny Depp. I think the most damage she's done to Johnny Depp has been emotional damage. That he was doing so well and had so much going for him, and now he's been left with so little. What would it feel like? What would it feel like for hundreds of millions of people to be told that you are an abusive person if you're not? When I first heard that he had beaten his wife, I remember being really disappointed. It didn't occur to me that it wasn't true. I don't even remember how I heard it. Someone maybe had told me, or I might have read an article about it, but that was it. It just didn't occur to me to question that. And so I think a lot of people will have probably responded in that way. And it's only now that you look back and think, wow, how poisonous was this campaign, to degrade and and shame somebody who didn't deserve it. I think Amber Heard's goal is for us to see her as the innocent victim, but we already know too much, so we know that she isn't. I mean, maybe some people really are fooled by that, but for those of us who have heard the audio that I looked at in a couple of videos earlier this year, please have a look if you haven't seen them. I've got a playlist about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, so if you click on the channel icon you can see that playlist. But anyway, we know that this isn't the case. So what we're left with, if we're to believe anything she says, is this idea that they're both guilty, that, you know, they bring out the worst in each other, that they're as bad as each other. This is what quite a lot of people have been saying, and they're you know, they've kind of destroyed each other. And I think that that's a really harmful narrative if that's not what's happened, you know. And in many abusive relationships, it's really not what has happened. There is an abusive person, and then there's the person who's codependent and sticks around. And I also don't really like the word codependent in this context, because the abuser is also codependent. They need someone to abuse. It's something I find really frustrating, not just with an abusive relationship with a partner, but in all sorts of settings, that people will say, oh, it's just a bad match. You know, you've met someone who's blatantly a really abusive person, and they'll say, oh, you know, it's just your two characters just don't work together. It's just you know, it's just one of those things. They're really nice, you're really nice. It's just, you know, it was just a bad match. And you just think, well, no, the person is a really abusive person. And, you know, what are you not seeing? You know, sometimes you can explain what's actually happened, and people will still say, oh, yeah, it was just a bad match. This theory that you bring out the worst in each other, and you know, and if you were just with different people, everything would be okay. There are different dynamics with different people, but that doesn't mean that you bring out the worst in each other, because that way you're given responsibility for the other person's behaviour. And it just doesn't work like that. If they get triggered because of their own issues into acting badly around you, then that's nothing to do with you, is it? You know, it doesn't mean that you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing. That you're somehow damaging them. And an abuser will turn things around. They will point to their victim and say that they are the perpetrator. And it looks like Amber Heard has repeatedly done that with Johnny Depp. Although Amber Heard wants to be seen as pure and the victim here, you know, who hasn't done anything wrong herself, she's apparently even covered up the, you know, how many drugs she took and so on, while Johnny Depp is really open about this, you know, with himself, but about how much he was drinking or what different drugs he took. He hasn't tried to hide anything. I want to be able to say that Amber Heard is a liar and somebody who really lacks any kind of empathy for Johnny Depp and really for the public. You know, somebody who's incredibly manipulative and who only thinks of herself and will go to enormous depths just to try to preserve her own image and to try to ruin somebody else's. But the thing is, what she's done is she's used such a sensitive topic, you know, and she's told us that she's a victim of domestic violence, and however much we can prove that she's lied about different things, where, you know, when we can hear the audio or we can see the footage and we know what isn't true, we can't say definitively that Johnny Depp never hit her, because we weren't always there. And so if all of this is a lie, then people like me are really people who talk about this we're not free to really speak our minds without potentially harming those people who have experienced domestic violence. Because if I was to say, okay, everything she says is complete crap and Johnny Depp has never hit her, then because I don't know that, you know, because I cannot be 100% sure, even though I feel sure, it can affect other people. It can mean that people might be more afraid to speak out. You know, they might think, well, this person was lying about a lot of it, so people didn't believe the rest of it. They might not believe me. And also, what is she doing for domestic violence against men? You know, she's telling us men are the ones who are the perpetrators, and women are the ones who are, you know, the victims and the poor, weak people being mistreated. And, you know, she's even said that to Johnny Depp. She's actually said, who are they going to believe? You know, this is how much I weigh, and look how big you are compared to me. Who's going to believe you? So what is that doing to male victims of domestic violence? She's relying on the prejudice that many people have, on the idea that the man is always the aggressor, you know, and that it's okay to hit a man anyway because a man should be strong. And, you know, they can withstand pain, whereas a woman can't. A woman is really weak and frail. So you know, so it's already hard enough for men who have experienced domestic violence to be taken seriously, or, you know, and especially to feel that they will be taken seriously, to be able to say, I was hit repeatedly by my female partner, you know, because there are already lots of people who would look at them and say, well, that's really pathetic, you know, you can handle that, it's only a woman, come on, you know, be a man. And this is what Amber Heard repeatedly says to Johnny Depp. You know, she suggests that he's not a man because he's complaining about being physically abused by her, because he doesn't want to hit her back, according to what he says in the audio, and what she doesn't deny that he's said. In the next video, I'm going to have a look more closely at some of the evidence against Amber Heard and at how some of the behaviour described would fit with the behaviour of someone who has borderline personality disorder. Johnny Depp has said that she has been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and I don't know if that's true. That's just what he's said, but I think that a lot of this behaviour that's been described does fit with these traits, you know, and so we can take a closer look at that in the next video. So I'm going to leave it here because the mosquitoes have come out and I don't want to get eaten alive. Okay, goodbye, thank you. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.